You are Locked On Wolverines POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Detroit, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How about that for a statement win by the Michigan Wolverines at the Big House, 24-7, and a blue-collar win. That's what Sherrone Moore wanted, and the Michigan Wolverines got back to work. Welcome back and welcome in to a live Locked On Wolverines postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. Good to be back on the Locked On Wolverines post-game show, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, today's show, if you can't catch us live, get the audio version at any time. And just in case you need a reminder, this is just the Locked On Wolverines post-game show. We'll wrap about this one. As I said, it was Michigan football, blue collar, the defense forcing some huge turnovers, the offense being opportunistic and taking advantage. And in the end, you've got a 24-7 win at the Big House. We'll talk about that rushing attack as well. I'll have my biggest talking point, our turning point, and our player of the game. That's all next. So buckle up, dial it in. Let's do it. As always, it's a collaborative program. So get in on the comments as well. We'll read some of them throughout the course of the post-game show as well. But hey, Michigan gets the win, and of course, that's where it starts with the win. Now, Michigan is 5-2, 3-1 in the Big Ten. They don't necessarily control their own destiny, but certainly putting themselves in a really good position to continue stacking wins and a big bounce back after last week's debacle against Southern Cal. Now, also with the win, it was one of those, I don't want to say loser goes home, but if you're the Washington Huskies, your college football playoff dreams are quickly falling by the wayside. And if it had been Michigan coming up on the short side of things, which obviously they didn't, you could probably have that same conversation. But alas, let's begin where we always do. Our biggest talking point, if you were to summarize this game and tell a friend about it, what would you say?
This is what you'll be talking about.
Look, Sherrone Moore took a lot of, maybe not heat, and depending on what your algorithm is and what you see online, everybody's different. But there were a lot of memes making fun of Sherrone Moore and his blue collar jacket that he wore to the press conference and saying Michigan needs to get back to work. But make fun of them all you want. That's exactly what Michigan did. And Joel Klatt said it on the Fox broadcast. I'd happen to agree with him that this was vintage Michigan football. You lean on them for three quarters. This is a game that's tied 7-7 with a buck and change to go in the third quarter. So you could make the case that for the vast majority of three quarters, these two teams were even. And then Michigan gets a couple of really important turnovers. Shout out to the defense forcing those turnovers. And the offense takes full advantage of it. And by the end of this game, it's kind of like that boa constrictor, right? You're suffocating, squeezing. And you look up with a couple of minutes to go and Michigan in complete control ahead by 3 possessions with a combination of the defense being opportunistic, forcing the 3 interceptions and the offense taking full advantage of that, which by the way, that's where I begin as well with the interceptions. Because when Cole Sullivan made that pick in a tied at 7 game, Michigan scores on the next play to go ahead 14-7. And that was the momentum swing. It basically was a pick 6 because they score on the first play. That momentum swing, Michigan never looked back. So as far as turning points, which we'll get to later in the program, that's certainly up there as well. And again, the Michigan defense just continuing to stay on the gas. And that's a good quarterback over there for the Washington Huskies. You talk about Damon Williams Jr., a guy that can really make some plays, and that's an explosive offense that this Michigan Wolverines defense completely shut down. And while we're talking about that defense, yes, you got to give a lot of credit to Jimmy Rolder and Jacob Oden as well. That was a really impressive interception that he had almost falling down to the ground when he made that play. But for Michigan missing some key guys on offense and on defense, this is a win that really, I don't know how you can come up with a negative thing to say about this win. So that being said, hey, Michigan gets the big win. And offensively, look, it was the ground game all the way. I mentioned with Justice Haynes out, you had to lean on Jordan Marshall, and what a day he delivered. Career high 133 yards rushing on 25 carries, had the touchdown as well. So shout out to that Michigan offensive line as well. They were really leaning on people to make the holes open up and reestablish that line of scrimmage, yards down the field. And again, without sounding like a broken record and being repetitive, that was vintage Michigan. It really was. And you haven't been able to say that a lot about a Michigan Wolverines football performance in the last 2 years, that, hey, this was a good team. You were at home and you went out and you executed. And on top of executing, you also just made the statement on what this program is built on. The foundation of this program being tough, being blue collar, being gritty. And, they talk about, they were talking about on the broadcast anyways, where Jim Harbaugh used to call it grinding the meat, and they were out there grinding. And by the end of the game, I think you could say Washington was waving the white flag. Okay, couple of comments to get into as well from at MMMMK247. I would like to know Marshall's yards after contact. He was a beast today. Really good point. There were several runs where it was the second and the third effort that really started to show the type of runner he is. And on the flip side, I think that takes the soul of the opposition a little bit as far as the Washington Huskies defense is concerned. You get a guy like Marshall that is, supposedly in theory, and Marshall talked about this after the game, that the Michigan running back room is as deep as any in the country. But in theory, okay, the main guy that's leading the Big Ten in rushing coming into today isn't going. Maybe that defense relaxes a little bit. I don't think necessarily that, but at the same time, hey, here's a second string guy or a backup guy that is delivering every bit of a punch as the main guy, and so many yards after contact. So I completely agree with that as well. Really good comment here on the offensive side of things from Brent DeWitt, 2180. Learned a lot today that our tight end depth is exceptional. Well, it absolutely is, because you look at, it's just a good day to be a Marshall. That's for sure. You look at the receiving side of things, Zach Marshall with 5 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown as well. And Andrew Marsh had the other touchdown with 5 catches, 49 yards for him as well. And I know that's a wide receiver. We're talking tight ends for that particular moment, but Zach Marshall, the tight end, stepping in and having a big game as well. You love to see that. And for Andrew Marsh, again, Andrew Marsh, Zach Marshall, and Jordan Marshall, just a good day to be a Marsh there if you're the Michigan Wolverines. That's for sure. This is from Michigan Man 81. Overall, next man up mentality. Love the performance as a whole today. Go blue. Really, I know that's a football saying or really athletics in general, next man up, but Michigan truly showed that today. All right, we're going to continue to cruise along. Don't go anywhere. It's the Locked On Wolverines post-game show, just getting started after a 24-7 victory over the Washington Huskies to move to 5-2 on the season and 3-1 in Big Ten play. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, I'll have my turning point and, of course, our player of the game. It's all next on a live Locked On Wolverines postcast. This episode of the Locked On Wolverines postcast is brought to you by our good friends over at DoorDash. The weekend's here. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP and who delivered, and it's all powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Go ahead and give me Jordan Marshall, career high 133 yards rushing on 25 carries, and Zach Marshall as well, 5 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Those are your DoorDash players that delivered. And just like they delivered, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it all up all season long. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order on Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period ends November 18th. This episode of the Locked On Wolverines postcast is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead time keeps you from punting on projects. And while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. And talk about a game changer. Oh yeah, the Trade Master. The perks of the Trade Master program, like priority shipping, dedicated support, makes the whole process smoother. So join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, and the promo code is SHCollege5. Real people, real service. The episode of the Locked On Wolverines postcast is also brought to you by Rougiette. If you've heard of Viagra or Cialis, maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours, and that means confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to Rougiette.com. That's RUGIET.com and use that promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette.com, promo code LockedOnCollege. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. I appreciate everybody tuning in to the Locked On Wolverines post-game show. Jake Reitman fired up to be with you on the Locked On Wolverines post-game show. Shout out to Isaiah Hull on the Daily Show. Make sure you continue to check that out and like today's video. Go ahead and subscribe to Locked On Wolverines if you haven't already. This is from Georgia Bandit 5810. We look so much better today. If we look like this the rest of the year, no reason we can't win out. And that's an interesting angle to take it. I don't disagree by any means. And I was looking at the Michigan schedule right before I hopped on, because that's exactly how my mind works as well. You're thinking, all right, you get the win here, obviously stubbed your toe last week against USC. You feel good about the game next weekend in East Lansing. Obviously, Michigan State being down in the depths as they are. Purdue is no challenge. Northwestern, I guess you could classify them as sneaky. They did just beat Penn State and end James Franklin's tenure there. Feel good about Maryland as well. And then the big one, anything can happen. You're at home against the number 1 team in the land. We'll just keep that streak going because obviously Michigan has had the upper hand in that rivalry as well. But let's get into one of my favorite parts of the program. It's the turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Couple of options on this one, but I think you got to give the nod to the defense. They had some huge stops, and in addition to the turnovers, they had the huge stop on 4th down that really helped solidify this when you had the near sack enforced fumble there by the defense. Great job getting pressures on the Washington quarterback. It was Derek Moore that he ended up with 2 sacks on the game, by the way. With that being said, you just a really great job collectively by this defense. But the number 1 turning point for me is Cole Sullivan's interception. Tie game, 7-7, late in the 3rd quarter. and you get that interception. Michigan scores the next play. The momentum from there, Washington was never able to recover. That's where the game turned in my mind, and it continued to turn because, again, this Michigan Wolverine team, just like the boa constrictor analogy, I'm sorry to use that twice, but pressure, suffocate. And by the end of the game, the opponent, the prey, if you will, is down and out, losing 24-7. All right, time now for the final little piece to hit on today's post-game show, and that is, of course, the player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
And while we've shown a lot of love to the defense, rightfully so, let's go ahead and show some love to that offense. And Bryce Underwood deserves a shout out, not necessarily for the player of the game, but completed 21 of 27 of his passes. And that is the best completion percentage in a game of his young career. But the player of the game, Jordan Marshall, toting the rock 25 times for 133 yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and the touchdown as well, stepping in for the injured Justice Haynes. And listen, we know what this team is and the identity of the Michigan Wolverines: running the ball, being physical up front, playing great defense. Today's game checked every single one of those boxes, and it results in a 24-7 win over a good Washington Huskies team. Again, they're now 5-2 and 2-2 in the Big Ten. I think they're college football playoff dreams are probably over. They've still got Oregon on the schedule, I believe. I have to double check. I don't know Washington's schedule by heart, but again, that's a good team over there, and Michigan really silenced them with that stout defensive effort. That's for sure. But appreciate everybody tuning in to the post-game show. If you enjoyed today's video, go ahead and give it a like. That would be greatly appreciated. I'll be on the next time, the next Michigan game. How about that? That's usually how it works on the post-game show. Michigan's next game, as I mentioned, on the road against Michigan State on October the 25th. We'll let you know when we've got a game time announced for that one. In the meantime, make sure you're checking out Locked On Wolverines every single day with Isaiah Hull. Shout out to the everydayers that check out both the post-game show as well as the everyday show. It's a pleasure to be on the air with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to host the post-game show. And hey, if you're an NFL fan, we've got a post-game Locked On Lions show as well. We call it the Locked On Lions Squad Show. It's myself, Natalie Kerwin from FanDuel Sports, and Bradford Banta, who coached at Michigan. So it's a great show, and that is my shameless plug, or invitation is probably a better way to put it, to check out the Locked On Lions post-game show as well after Lions games. So thanks so much for tuning in. Michigan wins it over Washington at the Big House. You love to see it. 24-7, the final. Tremendous day for the offense, tremendous day for the defense, and a good day for Michigan football. It's a blue-collar, gritty win. We'll talk to you next time when Michigan takes on Michigan State. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday afternoon, and go Blue.